At 18 years old, Ben enlisted in the military straight out of high school. He only enlisted for the benefits. The pay was decent, and the free college at the end of 4 years seemed worth it. The $20,000 bonus didn't hurt either. After his training, he had been shipped off to Georgia, hundreds of miles away from his home. Time passed. Ben had risen in the ranks and was now a sergeant with a squad of 4 soldiers under him. He had done his job well, and treated his soldiers kindly. He had gained their trust as well as the trust of his superiors. He was 6 months out from potentially leaving the military. Ben could re-enlist or get out of the military and go off to college. He had already been accepted to his home state's university, and his parents were more than willing to house him for the 4 or so years it would take to earn his degree. Still, he had been dating a local girl for 2 years, and he was seriously considering marrying her. He also found that the military life seemed to suit him. He decided to re-enlist for 4 more years. Surely, 26 wouldn't be too old to be a college freshman, right? Time passed. Ben was now a staff sergeant. He had married his wife 3.5 years ago, and his oldest son, Ben Jr., was just about 2 years old. His wife was pregnant again, with a girl this time. His body was holding up pretty well, considering he had spent 7 years in the military, though his knees did bother him more than they used to, especially after the 5-mile Monday morning PT runs. His unit was set to go on deployment a few months before he left the military. He decided to extend his contract for a year so he could go on the deployment. Even though he had spent 7 years in the military, he still felt he hadn't really done much, since he hadn't had the chance to deploy. 2 months after his extension, he was shipped off to somewhere in the Middle East. He was planning to re-enlist on deployment to get his next bonus tax-free. 4 months into the deployment, Ben re-enlisted for 5 years. He even got a 10K bonus, tax-free. It would take him right up until the day he could sign an indefinite contract, keeping him in the military until retirement. He was sure his retirement benefits would be enough to take care of his family while he was in college after retirement. A week after signing his re-enlistment contract, conflict flared up around his FOB. Patrols were extended and expanded, going from half a dozen soldiers to a dozen, and 12 hours to 24. With the general lack of manpower in the force, signal soldiers were forced to take up roles they never had before. Ben went out on patrol. About 3 miles outside the FOB, his platoon was confronted by a group of combatants. A firefight ensued, ending in 10 enemy casualties and 2 friendly casualties. The rest of his platoon got away, but SSG Ben and his soldier, one POC Cheng, after laying down suppressive fire, wound up dying while laying in wait for a medevac to Arifjan. Every surviving soldier thanked their lucky stars that an NCO and a soldier had laid down their lives to ensure they escaped to freedom. They never forgot that sacrifice. A month after his death, Mrs. Gonzalez was informed of her husband's death. She was considered a Gold Star widow and given special permissions to the local military bases. Still, it didn't make up for the sacrifice of her husband. She would never forget the father of her children, the man she had called the One. Time passed. At 18, Ben Jr. joined the army straight out of high school, looking for the benefits.